Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at and installing the DeatschWerks EV14 DV2 95-pound fuel injectors for 2005 to 2017 GTs and 03 to 04 Cobras. These are 95-pound or 1,000cc injectors, so they're going to be a great option for anyone looking for more fuel for their build, especially those forced induction guys out there. These have the standard EV14 body style, so they'll fit all 05 to 2017 GTs and the 03 to 04 Cobra. They cost about $700, so they are going to be your go-to budget-friendly option. The install is a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and I'll go ahead and show you how to get these installed now. We're going to start the install by removing the strut tower brace as well as the engine cover. You don't necessarily have to pull your strut tower brace. You can get the engine cover out without doing so, but removing the strut tower brace is just going to give us a little bit more room to work with the injectors. Alright, so we'll pull up on this right here. Alright, we're going to go ahead and remove the strut tower brace without disconnecting our battery. Alright, so now we'll just pull the engine cover. It's held in place by 4 rubber grommets, so you just pull up on it and it'll lift off. So at this point, our hoses right here on either side will move right out of the way. And then we're going to grab these 2 10mm nuts on this side, and there are 2 more on that side. They'll remove these plastic covers, and then we'll just have the foam underneath. With the covers out of the way, we can now grab our foam. So at this point, we have complete access to our fuel injectors, but before I go any further with that, I'm going to open up the fuse box, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the fuse for the fuel pump, then I'm going to try to start the car. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this. I like doing this because it removes some excess fuel from the fuel lines before I disconnect it, so I won't have as much fuel that'll spill out when I disconnect that line. Like I said, you don't have to do it, it just makes it a little bit easier and a little bit cleaner. So the fuse that we're going to be pulling is this one right here in the bottom left corner, and it's actually number 94. Sounds good to me. Now we're going to go ahead and move forward with disconnecting the fuel injectors and then disconnecting the fuel line itself. So in order to disconnect your fuel injectors, all you're really going to do is you're going to find your electrical connections, you'll squeeze the tab, and then just pull back, and you'll be able to pull off the connection. So it'll be the same thing for this side. We'll just reach in, grab our connector, and pull it off. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the fuel rail. You guys are gonna wanna grab a couple rags just in case. I'm going to put one underneath the fuel rail and wrap one around it as well, just to catch any of that spilled fuel that we're gonna have. So this right here is where you're gonna disconnect your fuel rail. So the way that this clip works is you'll reach around either side, push in the two tabs on the bottom, you'll see this blue piece pop up. From here, you'll be able to pull this back. Before I do that, I'm going to wrap this around it. Help try to catch any of that fuel. So at this point, I'm gonna pull back on the line. All right, and now we are disconnected. This rag is definitely catching fuel, so I'm just going to leave this here like that, catch all of our fuel. While the fuel rail is draining, we're gonna go ahead and unbolt the fuel rail. There are 4 10mm bolts holding it in place. At this point, we're gonna move ahead and pull the fuel rail with the fuel injectors. Just know that some of the injectors may stay in the manifold, some may stick in the fuel rail. The important thing though is gonna be the O-rings. Depending on where your injectors wanna stay when you pull the fuel rail, just make sure you aren't leaving any O-rings behind. Also be aware that as you move the fuel rail, more fuel is probably gonna pour out, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave those rags there. So at this point, I'm basically going to grab each injector and try to pull it out of the manifold and keep the injectors in the fuel rail, just because that'll make it a little bit easier. All right, and then now we can try to wiggle the fuel rail out. I'm just gonna grab a rag just in case we spill any more fuel. So all of the fuel injectors stayed in the fuel rail, and one of the first things that I did was check to make sure all of the O-rings came out with the injectors. We left one behind in the manifold, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab that now. At this point, we're ready to pull the stock injectors from the fuel rail. In order to do that, you're gonna need a flathead screwdriver. These metal clips right here are gonna need to come off. I also have an extra rag just because I am expecting some more fuel from the injectors when I pull them out of the rail. So we're gonna go ahead, use the flathead screwdriver to get in between the fuel rail and the clip so I can pull the clip off. All right, from here we'll be able to get the injectors out of the fuel rail. I'm going to wrap a rag around the injector. It's literally just held in by the O-ring at this point, so we're just gonna go ahead, wiggle it a little bit from side to side and pull up. All right, so we'll pull the clips on this side as well. We're just gonna wedge our flathead screwdriver between the fuel rail and the clip. Okay, now we'll grab our injectors. Once again, we'll use the rag just because there is still a little bit of fuel left in the fuel rail. Once again, we are double checking to make sure all of the O-rings come out. So here are our stock injectors, and here are the DeatschWerks injectors. These have a 12.4 ohm impedance, and you do get a set of 8 when you purchase these. The other thing is, these are the V2 injectors, which means that they're E85 compatible. So you can run E85 through these injectors and not have to worry about any rubber components being eaten away at. With that being said, let's get these in the fuel rail now. Alright, so two things to call out here are you do get a little packet of synthetic grease with the injectors. You're going to want to use that. Basically, you only need a really little bit. We're going to grab our new injector and just run a little bit of grease around the O-ring. It's going to help it sit into the fuel rail a little bit easier. Now, the other thing to make note of is your new injectors do come with these gold clips, so you won't be reusing the factory silver clips that came off the old injectors. So we're going to go ahead then and simply just slide this right into the fuel rail. So you're going to want to make sure that your injector is seated all the way down in the fuel rail, and that also the connector is pointed in the correct orientation. With our last injector in place, we're ready to take this over and get the fuel rail back into the car. Basically, all you have to do is line it up, and then you're going to want to make sure that you press firmly into place. You're going to want to feel each injector click into its home. So you guys just heard it click right there. This side is in, we're going to go around and make sure the other side's in as well. Now we can go ahead and bolt the fuel line back down into place. So now we're going to go ahead and plug the injectors back in on both sides. Guys, just know if your injector isn't exactly pointed in the correct direction, you can turn it a little bit at this time if you have to. And since we're right here, we're going to go ahead and plug our fuel line back in. So we'll just slide it into place and then push our blue pin down. Next, we're going to get the fuel line insulator back in, as well as our bracket. Now these are side specific and they do have a front and back. You guys can see right here, this is the left side with the arrow pointing towards the front of the engine, which means that this is going to go on the back side of the fuel rail. So this is just going to slide over our fuel rail. All right, so we'll slide the bracket over the studs. We will get our hose back in place. Then we are going to slide our other line back over our studs before we tighten down the nuts. So we'll do the same thing on this side. We'll slide our insulation over our fuel rail. We'll grab the bracket for the right side, slide that into place, grab our two 10mm nuts, tighten them down, and then we'll take our hose and get it back in place. So we can't forget to get power back to our fuel pump. So we're gonna go ahead, go back into our fuse box, return this relay right here in the lower left-hand corner. And from there, we'll just grab our engine cover. Much like it came off, this thing just slides back into place. The last thing we'll do is get our strut tower back into place. All right guys, that's gonna wrap up this review and install. Keep in mind that you can always check these injectors out more online right here at AmericanMuscle.com.